Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today I am continuing my series into the idea of who shall return from previous campaigns in Campaign 3 of Critical Role. And today I'm going to be going over some of the NPCs from the previous two campaigns to see if I think they will show up or not. Now, there is nearly 950 NPCs throughout the three campaigns. So obviously I was able to get rid of everyone who's shown up already in campaign 3, but that's still left like 850. So there was quite a few to kind of cut down. So with that being said, these are the characters who I've, sort of rounded down to who I think have the most weight to them if they show up or not, and who likely have the most possibility of showing up. So I didn't just pick some random NPC from episode 102 in campaign 2. It is characters who I think have some sort of role to play if they show up, not just some random shopkeeper from a random city. These are characters who have made an impact on me as a viewer and likely other fans. So without further ado, it's going to be alphabetical order, starting with Allura Vysoren. She is the first one in this list, and I think she's going to show up in this campaign. She showed up in campaign 2. She's obviously first appearance was in campaign 1 and throughout the rest of campaign 1. So, and she's Matt's like DMPC from campaign 1. He has had DMPCs in other games like Essek, but she also showed up in the other campaign. So I think the likelihood of her somehow showing up in Jushar is probably very good, especially with all this political climate stuff that we're going through. It's a possibility. And I don't think she's going to have as much weight as she did throughout Campaign 1. I don't think she's going to affect things as much as she did in Campaign 2 by giving somebody a very powerful item, which was insane. That was an awesome item to give Caleb. So I don't know if she's going to have that much of an impact. I think she might show up, talk to the new characters, and then leave. Not necessarily give them anything or guide them anywhere. I think this character is more of a nice little lore character to show up and tie the world together even more. So the next character is Artagan. Obviously, the Traveler. I think if you follow Artagan, you're likely to do random chaotic shit, and I think that's going to attract the Bell's House, because they are chaotic people. So if there's some random follower of Artagan or the Traveler just in any random city, the likelihood of Fern especially going up to them and seeing what they're doing, in my opinion, is very good, and I think that could lead to some sort of Artagan. But at the same time, I don't know how many people follow him still after the events of Campaign 2. So Artagan, to me, is one of those characters that could 100% show up or could not show up at all. I know that sounds weird, but I think he's got a great chance of showing up just because he's wacky and goofy and he could appear at any moment, at any time. He is one of those characters who can just appear, disappear, like he did throughout Campaign 2. There isn't as strong of a connection to him in this campaign, but I do think there is a chance somewhere someone develops one, because this is a very chaotic group, and I think Fern would attract somebody like Artagan to them, much like Jester attracted Artagan to her. So, I don't know. I like the idea of Artagan showing up and sort of guiding Fern on more chaos. So, maybe. The next one is Astrid, the female wizard from Caleb's backstory. She joined the Cerberus Assembly at the end of Campaign 2, and I don't know exactly how much I think Cerberus Assembly characters will show up in Campaign 3, but with the political climate of Jushar and Marquet and the Odiran Wildlands, I think there is a chance. I don't know how much. I think that stuff will be, dealing with Cerberus Assembly and stuff like that will be left to Mighty Nein one-shots, and I would love to see Mighty Nein one-shots like that. But if that character of Astrid makes it through those one-shots, there's a good chance that a character in a high-up position like her could show up in Campaign 3. Don't know how good of or how much of a impact she will have, but it's possible. So the next character, we skip over the letter B altogether in my alphabet here and go right to C, to Cassandra de Rolo. Now, there's a few ways that I think this could happen. One, they go to Whitestone because they want to have a funeral for Bertrand Bell at some point. Maybe. That's a possibility that I thought of not too long ago, that they could go to Whitestone just to say goodbye to Bertrand one last time. The second one is Cassandra decides to step up and go after Delilah when she returns. And I would really find that to be very interesting, rather than Percy and Vex go after Delilah. I think Cassandra's connection to her and the fact that she kills her, the first time around anyway, is extremely interesting, and I think it would bring up bad memories not for just Percy, but also Cassandra. So if they ever find out, I think the Rolo clan will definitely show up, and maybe Cassandra's leading it. I think it's just a good possibility. So the next one is Devexian, and for those who aren't caught up in Campaign 2, Devexian is a Warforged, or Aeoriton, I think is what they called him at the time, a robot, who they found while in Aeor. And there are some things in Fern's backstory where she said that she either thinks or knows her parents went missing up in Aeor that makes me think there's a possibility that they go back to Aeor in this campaign and meet Devexian. But we don't know where Devexian went after what happened. We do know that with Devexian leaving Aeor, or leading other Warforges out of Aeor, Matt said that they've opened up the gates to become that player race of Warforged, or automatons as they put it. So definitely interesting. I think that if they do go back up to Aeor, Devexian is a character they should absolutely run into, because I think he'd be cool. The next is Dr. Dranzel, the band leader of traveling musical leader of the former troupe of Scanlan Shorthold and Kaylee Shorthold. And I think with all the, it's very artsy so far this campaign. We've had a couple of art spots highlighting Scanlan. So I do think Dr. Dranzel could be not far behind, but I do also think that he is probably stuck on Tal'Dorei. So who knows? I think it's possible for him. For the most part, up to this point, I think it's been very likely that some of these characters show up. Dr. Dranzel is my first character who I think likely won't show up. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think Dr. Dranzel is stuck on Tal'Dorei, but there is a chance he gets to Marquet somehow. The next character is Aedwulf, the male wizard from Caleb's backstory in Campaign 2, of which we had very little information about him after the end of Campaign 2. Matt sort of delved deep into what happens with, or not deep, but gave us a little bit of insight of what happened with Astrid, but Aedwulf just outright disappeared. So I think there's a chance that he either helps Astrid, so he'll be with Astrid, or he's searching for something different. And that different could lead him to Jushar for this political landscape. Because I feel like a character like Aedwulf wouldn't want to go too far from what he knows, and a structure like Jushar would be similar to what he was experiencing in the Cerberus Assembly or in his schooling. So I think there's a chance. I don't think his chance of appearing is as strong as Astrid, but I do think Aedwulf would be an interesting character, and maybe we've seen him grow and change in the last 6 to 7 years since Campaign 2. So maybe he's different now, and maybe he's exactly the same. Who knows? So the next one is Essek Thalis. Essek is a member of the Mighty Nine. He is the Drow Elf wizard who accompanies them for the last bit of the campaign in Aeor to fight Lucian. I don't think he's going to show up, but I do think he is important of a character, an NPC, that I have to bring him up in this video. I already talked about him a little bit in the Mighty Nine video of do I think they'll return. And truth be told, I don't think Essek is going to show up. I think Essek is done. He's going to retire with Caleb for a while and then continue on with life. Next character is Gladion. I'm not sure how they pronounce it, but it's the ice dragon from Aeor. And this character is still kicking and probably still very pissed off about what happened. And like I said before, with Fern's backstory, the likelihood of someone going to Aeor, or the campaign going to Aeor in some form or fashion, is possible. And fighting Galdeon up in the ice cap of Aeor is totally possible. And that's it. I think if they go to Aeor, Galdeon is showing up because she will be a random encounter and she will be pissed. But that to me means that they'll be going later in the campaign rather than sooner, so maybe we won't get some of that Fern backstory for a while. The next is Ishani, the hag. These names, man. The hag that put the curse on Not and put a curse on Bo's family from Campaign 2. I don't think she's going to show up. I think she's going to be a Mighty Nein one-shot villain at some point, so probably not. But I just felt like Isharnai, that's it, deserves to be brought up in this video for her amazing impact on Campaign 2 and for the epic moment that is Jester's Cupcake. So moving on to probably one of the characters who I think has the best chance of showing up, and that is German Saord, the dragon ruler of Ankarel in the continent of Marquet. I think that just outright says we will eventually see German Saord show up somewhere, somehow, some way, whether it be in their dragon form, while they're ruling the city. Somehow, German Saord will show up, almost guaranteed. So, moving on from German is Kaylee Shorthalt. So, for a long time, I didn't know if her name was Kaylee or Haley, but now, since looking at this list of 950 characters, I have learned her name is Kaylee. So, with that being said, I think if Scanlan shows up in some form or fashion, so will she. That's it. But I do feel she is an important enough character to bring up, so there she is. Next is Kima, Lady Kima, the dwarf paladin. I think she's a paladin from Campaign 1, also, I believe, wife of Allura Vysoren. I don't know if they're married or not, but I do know they're together. So, definitely, is she a dwarf or a gnome? I think she's a gnome, and I just fucked up. Gnome, Lady Kima. If Allura shows up, I think Kima's there as well. Simple as that. And also, for the same reasons as Kima, Matt likes them, and they're both likely to show up in some form or fashion because Matt likes to have those lore moments, those connective tissue moments, and I think that'd be cool. The next three, I'm really excited to sort of talk and delve into a bit more. So the next one on my list is a huge jump in the alphabet, and that is Pumat Sol. Pumat Sol, to me, would be an awesome character for these, new, different people to run into than the last adventuring group he ran into. This group is far more creepy and weird and strange compared to the group that he met before in Campaign 2, and I think Pumat Sol meeting this group would be a totally different sort of attitude toward them. I think instead of being, he'll still be warm and welcoming, but at the same time, he might be a little creeped out. And I think it'd be very interesting to see that. Also, again, I only think they run into him if they decide they're going to go to Aeor and then stop in Wildmount first, for whatever reason. So I don't think Pumat Sol will show up, but I would love to see him because he was my favorite character or favorite NPC from Campaign 2, I believe. Now that I'm really thinking about it, he might honestly be one of my favorite NPCs of all time. So to see Pumat Sol come back, for me, would be great. And that's why I really wanted to talk about him today, because I think the character would be fun and we would see a totally different side of Pumat, other than when he decided he was going to fight alongside the Mighty Nein. But I think this will be a different casual side of him where he's a little less welcoming. And I think that'd be interesting to see. So next is a character who I believe will more than definitely show up because of their roots in Marquet, and that is Sean Gilmore. Yeah, I definitely think Sean Gilmore will show up. He is from Marquet, and he is a magic item seller, and I think that is where they might end up finding a bunch of their magic items from Sean Gilmore. And we know he's still kicking around because EXU was very recently, and he's familiar with some of the characters in the Bell's Hells, and I think he might even seek them out at some point or not to tell them about Dorian, what's happened with him, what he's up to, where the rest are, that sort of stuff. And I think that would be a nice sort of moment for Fern and Orem so that they can hear about Dorian, Dariax, and Opal and their new friend. And I think it'd be really cool for them. And I think it'd be really cool for us to see because it feels like it's been a while since Matt has been Sean Gilmore. And he is Sean Gilmore, and I would love to see him play that character again. So, with that being said, I think and would totally love to see Sean Gilmore show back up and running his glorious good shop. So, the next is Wyatt. Another big jump. Wyatt Maranus, the Plank King, as more people would probably know him by, just like how I knew him by until this list. I would love to see the Plank King somehow, some way. But I also think that there's another character from a previous campaign that might fuck with this whole idea of the Plank King coming back. And that's Kingsley, obviously, because his goal after leaving Forge Troop or Forge Pirate Crew would be to go to Dark Toe and be rid of the Plank King. So I think it'd be kind of interesting to see where the Plank King ends up now, 7 years later, and if Kingsley won or not. Even if that means we have to see Kingsley lose and then the current party help Kingsley take over, or if the Mighty Nein help Kingsley take over and then Kingsley kicks out the Plank King and then the Plank King meets up with Campaign 3's characters and they go fight Kingsley. I think that would be far more interesting. Do I think this will happen? If they go out to seas, yes. But I think Matt is going to try to contain this to Marquet instead of taking it out to sea. Campaign 1 was a globe-trotting sort of adventure. Campaign 2 was we're going to keep it in Wildmount and then go down into the seas below Wildmount and then up into the northern parts of Wildmount. But most of the time they stayed within Wildmount. I think he's going to try to do that again, but a lot more contained within Marquet. I think we're not going to see as much world travel. I think they've already spent a lot of time in Jushar, and I think that Matt's going to try to do it again. Keep them in Jushar and the surrounding areas with only, a couple of days of travel in between each city that they go to. I don't know how much travel they're going to do, but that meeting the Plank King really depends on that travel. So I'm going to say probably not going to show up, but that is all for this list. I know I left a bunch of characters on the cutting room floor, so please let me know other characters that you would like me to talk about and their possibility of showing up or not. There are some who I know are going to get brought up, like Victor. First of all, Victor's dead. He's not coming back. Or maybe even the Gentleman. The issue with the Gentleman coming back is he is retired from crime and now with the Ruby of the Sea. So, I have no doubt that those characters will populate my comment section if there are any comments to be found. So, without further ado, that is me for today. See y'all this Friday. I always do that. If you're in the chat on Twitch for Critical Role, you'll see me there. So there it is. All right, see you guys Friday. Peace.